up? We took a
Alrighty.
mini break again. Mostly my fault, I
Yeah,
think.
it happens. I mean, like, I've been busy with some assignment related stuff, and you've been looking for, or you've been job hunting and other
Hmm.
things, so I get it, it
Yeah,
happens.
it does. But we were actually going to record last week, and then just sort of last minute, I wasn't feeling up to it. But I did have a topic in mind back then, which was pets.
Hmm.
And I've really no memory of what I was about to say that time. Uh, Since then, very recently, when I was out on a walk with Thimble, my dog, um, we walked past, because like I live in a village, so there's just a lot of houses, and every house has its own backyard or front yard or whatever. And we walked past a house, and this dog that is off the leash comes rushing out from the yard. Like we're walking on the sidewalk, so
Hmm.
and this dog comes rushing out, barking aggressively and having a really aggressive. Like it wasn't a big dog, don't get me wrong. That wasn't intimidating about it, but it had a really aggressive bark and look to it. Like, I mean, sometimes you see
Hmm.
dogs barking and it's kind of playful or whatever, but this really felt like aggression and territorial behavior. And I was a bit like, what do I even do at that point? Because obviously, I don't want anyone to attack Fimble. I also don't want to be attacked myself. I doubt that the dog would actually attack me. It didn't end up attacking anyone. I should be clear about that. But um, I was like, what do I do? Do I scoop up Fimble and keep him out of reach? Because Fimble is a corgi. I can lift him if I want to. But then, in the time that it would take me to scoop him up, something could happen, and me intervening could trigger things to be even worse. And so, luckily, the owner came running and called him back. But I am a little bit upset.
Understandable.
um, because here's the thing. My Fimble is a very, very friendly dog. He just wants to play with every other dog. He was intimidated by this dog. He didn't try to play with this one. Um, he was intimidated and actually kind of scared to walk past the house after that. Like we've walked past 3 times since then, and every time he's been kind of hesitant.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so he's a very friendly dog. I don't think he would ever attack someone. Like if we were to have him off the leash in our backyard, I don't think he would run off to fight off another dog walking past. He might run up to them and want to play, however, which would be problematic, particularly if they felt threatened by that. Um, but that's the thing. First and foremost, I don't think he would actually leave the yard without me. Second of all, he's a very
Hmm.
friendly dog. But even then, I don't let him be outside off the leash because I am not 200% sure that he will not leave the yard. I don't know that for sure. He's not well trained enough that I trust him not to. If on top of that he were aggressive or territorial towards other dogs, I would never let him off the leash outside. Ever. In any setting. Even if it's out in the woods, because you never know if someone else is going to come along with a dog. And I don't see how you can be so selfish, I guess, is my thinking here. Because if this dog had attacked Fimble, then even if he hadn't sustained any injuries, the psychological effects of it could be damaging enough. I mean, even without him being actually attacked, it was
Hmm.
jarring for him.
Right.
So, I don't know. And the thing is, I don't know how it is in they're playing. Um I don't know how it is in the US, but here, when it comes to dogs, you are always responsible for everything that any and all damage caused by your pet, you're responsible for. Um,
Pretty certain it's similar here, and a good majority of cities, which is pretty much most townships over a certain population, have leash laws
hmm,
type of thing. Where if your dog is not on a leash and is acting up in outside of designated areas like dog parks or
hmm,
something like that, you can get fined
yeah,
type of thing. Because of issues with like aggressive dogs and the like.
yeah,
And so, like, I have been fortunate enough that a lot of the dogs in my life, because they were family dogs, they weren't mine, because love dogs, not a dog person.
I'm
um,
actually the same, even though I have a dog.
mhm. But with that, my I've never needed to have dogs on leashes, but I still do. Even if that leash has been, we can't afford one right now. And so I'm using my wallet chain or like some rope from a tie
Mm-hmm.
down related thing around the collar or
Mm-hmm.
something to act as a leash related
Yeah.
thing. Because of those things and because of the fact that you don't know which dogs are going to be aggressive and which ones aren't.
Yeah.
Um, And even if a dog's like naturally aggressive or whatever, you don't know who's teaching a dog to be aggressive.
Yeah. And
Which,
the thing is also, and the thing that upsets me is that even with the laws of you are responsible for any damage caused by your pet, what this also essentially means that if this dog that came rushing up to us had attacked Fimble and Fimble had bitten it in self-defense, I would have been responsible for the injury to the other person's dog, even though my dog was on a leash and just defending itself.
hmm
And it's like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the responsible thing. I am keeping control of my dog. And this irresponsible person,
hmm
um, who hasn't trained their dog to remain on the yard and doesn't respect the fact that it is showing signs of aggression, this person could still get me into trouble. And that also makes me angry. Not to
hmm
mention, around here, like not in my village, but in a village uh, just a little bit away, there was a family that went for a walk with their two dogs. It was a man, his daughter, young daughter, and his two dogs. And the two dogs were on a leash. Um, but someone else did not have their dogs on a leash. The dogs ran up, were very aggressive, tried to attack not just the dogs, but also the child. So the father scooped up his child and dropped the leash for one of his dogs who was bitten and ran off. And this was during spring while there was still it was still cold outside. The dog ran
hmm
off because it got scared and hurt and ran out onto the ice. The ice broke and the dog drowned. So you have a traumatized kid who was attacked by a dog. You have a dead dog, a dead family member for this family, just because someone didn't keep their fucking aggressive dogs on a leash.
hmm
It pisses me off,
I
quite
don't blame
frankly.
you. Yeah, there's been like a lot of things in regards to people that I've seen do things with dogs in regards to like the only dog that has shown signs of being territorial or aggressive that I have not blamed was one that was from my childhood. And it was he showed signs of it. He was not.
Hmm.
It was he was protecting his space by being loud,
Hmm.
type of thing. And part of that was because from my childhood, I lived. Let me pull up the unit converter for the people who use sensible units. Um, I live 20 miles or 32 kilometers out of town in any given direction.
Mhm.
And so if it's not another person, that we had bears, we had moose, which I don't know what the dog's going to do to a moose, but the
Yeah.
dog's going to draw attention to the moose. There was mountain lions or cougars type of things. That there was all sorts of various things that would be like, this is good to know that this creature's here
Yeah.
type of thing. So that's like the only time when I've never blamed
Yeah, and
like
I mean it's
the owner
okay
for
to have a dog that has guarding instincts and stuff
it.
like that, but you have to take responsibility for that and not endanger others. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
Like, if you have a dog that's supposed to guard your house or your yard, fair enough, fair enough. Just make sure that it doesn't get to hurt other people or animals. Because, you know,
Exactly. Man, no. I I have had the fortunate experience to not have that with a lot of my pets.
yeah, obviously, I mean, like my cats, of course, some of them have been quite territorial as well. It's more difficult to stop cats from fighting, I feel. And also, uh, they haven't been fighting to the death. It's been more, get off
Yeah.
my lawn and chasing one another.
No, I had a cat when I was a kid, so it was about of a sorry, just doing conversions again. It was about okay, I think I'd have this more. It's about like a 400-meter walk or so from my front door to my to where the bus would pick me up
Mm,
type of thing. Which for the first 5, 6 years of school, or not 5, 6 years, for the first 2 or 3 years of school was I was 5 or 6, was when was just at the end of a bridge type of thing.
mm-hmm.
And so I'd get up really early because 20 miles out of town, so gotta get moving on in regards to that. So I'd get up really early, and I had my half Saint Bernard dog. That is probably the reason why I will never have another dog because he was very well behaved, and holding other dogs up to that standard is just not fair.
Mm,
Um, and my mom had a tortoiseshell calico that was an indoor-outdoor cat type of thing. And every morning we'd get up and we'd walk out, and the dog would be on like mom's right, and the cat would be on my left. And we'd walk down to the bus stop and then wait. Like they'd sit on the bridge. The cat, the dog would sit on the bridge and wait. And then when mom would start walking back, the pets would walk back. And it's a fond little memory to kind of look back on in regards to
understandable.
that with like weird cat behaviors. Because like cats don't do that. Well, this cat did.
Yeah,
This cat
absolutely.
also caught hummingbirds.
Um, I actually had one of my oldest cats, or like I grew up with a few different cats
Mhm.
throughout my childhood, but the one that we had for the longest time during my growing up, um, and who has pretty much like become like the way she was. That is like the essence of cat for me. That is like
Mhm.
just yeah, I don't even know how to express it in words, but for me, she embodied everything that is a cat to me, which are all just positive things. Um, but she would put me like because my mom would put me to bed and say goodnight and stuff, just like
Mhm.
tuck me in, give me a hug, and then she'd leave. And whenever she did that, every day or every evening, the cat would also come and she would lay down in bed with me until I fell asleep, and then she could leave. But she would also tuck me in every single evening. until I essentially until I moved away from home. um, and so that was also like her routine, and she would continue to do it when I came home, like after I moved away from home.
That's cute.
Yeah, so I have
Yeah.
very fond memories of that as well.
Almost the cats that I have had in recent years have all been cuddlers. When I say recent years, I mean technically the past decade and change.
Hmm.
Um, because when I was living with my dad and stepmom, they got a cat because my stepmom really wanted a cat, and then the cat needed a companion because cats get lonely, so they got another cat type of thing. Um, the first cat was very cunning
Mhm.
and bullied the second cat at the right moments.
Hmm.
So when the second cat retaliated, that's what everyone saw, type of thing. It took me a little while to see it myself, but I kind of stayed apart from everyone else for various reasons.
Mhm.
And so I was like, no, your cat's picking on the other cat type of thing. But like that cat would always come over and cuddle me in regards to just for cuddling things in the middle of the night and like sleep next to me and stuff like that. And he's not out here right now, which is surprising, but Baloo is also a very big cuddler.
Mhm.
Um, there are
Also
like
pretty
times when
talkative.
oh yeah, there are times when I'm just like trying to go to sleep and he's yelling in my face or like trying to get comfortable. And so people are like, "Why are you still up? Aren't you trying to go to bed?" And I just take a selfie of me in bed, and it's just right there.
Yeah, Fimble has gotten into this habit of walking into my bedroom early in the morning and just whining. He's in a phase where he just whines a lot, and partially that's my fault. He's probably understimulated, is what I'm guessing. Plus
Hmm.
teenage years, and maybe a week ago now, he had his first encounter with a female dog in heat,
Oh,
and
lovely.
it's our neighbor's dog as well, next door
Hmm.
neighbor. So yeah, he's a teenager, a whiny one. Um, they say corgis tend to bark a lot, and fortunately, he hasn't done that, but he whines a lot. That's his vocalization. Today, this morning, he actually howled.
Fair
Um,
enough.
so yeah, I don't know. It, I don't even really know what to do about it. I'm not crazy about being woken up early in the morning for any reason, and particularly not by a dog who just comes in and whines for like half an hour and then leaves. And there are
Fair
other
enough.
people in the house who are awake as well, so it's not like he needs to go out to pee or anything because usually I suspect it is right after my grandpa has walked with him outside to let him pee in the morning because my grandpa wakes up super early every morning, so he typically takes him out to let him pee at least. So it's not that he needs to do any of those things. He just comes in, whines, and leaves. And that's one of the experiences that I am not the biggest fan of when it comes to being a new dog owner.
Yeah, animals dealing with each other and he or smelling it or being used to it or whatever it is very annoying no matter what animal it is.
I
It
suppose.
is it is not it is very annoying to hear cats in heat too
I've
because they'll
never had
just
issues with that though. Like, ever.
you know yeah, there have been times where just like where cats been in heat and I've just heard the yowling
Mm.
in various hours throughout the day and night and it's like shut up type of thing.
Ours haven't been much for doing that, I guess. Which maybe is strange. But some of them also, like back in the day, did have a tendency to disappear for days instead when in heat. So. because
That
like at least one of them, I think she knew that if she was indoors when she started showing signs of being in heat, we would, force her to have a pill, so she wouldn't
one.
get pregnant. So instead, she would just run away for a couple of days, and then sometimes we would get a litter of kittens. Not the most responsible thing, but it used to be very much the standard thing here in Sweden when I was growing up. Is you didn't really neuter your cats. It's definitely become a lot more common. I also think that it used to be harsher on the female cats before, um, like physically speaking,
Hmm.
like a more risky procedure.
I think it is. Yeah.
So that's also part of it. Um, but yeah.
I know. Oh, I had something and then I lost it because my brain. Um, can't see. Oh, yeah, no, I know it's like they definitely here in the United States try to make it common because cats are apex predators type of thing.
Mm,
And so they will go through and just destroy local ecologies and stuff like that.
mm. Yeah, here is more so just an issue of, well, for one, people, at least before, used to have this idea that the cats would just survive on their own, which they don't, particularly in a harsh winter. They
Hmm.
do not survive very well at all, unless they get some help from a kind person who puts out food and gives them somewhere warm to sleep. Which we used to do for a stray cat, or abandoned. I think he was probably what is locally known as a summer cat, where people get a cat for their summer house and then just leave them and assume they'll do fine. They don't. Um, and he would come to us every winter and live in our stables, and we would put out food for him every day. Um, but we couldn't really bring him in because we had our own cats. But he could coexist with them very well outdoors. So
Oh yeah, there's that. If you staying in the stables, you got a mouser, so it's perfectly fine.
yeah, well, our other cats were also mousers, but
That's
it
fair.
was fine. So there's that perception that they do fine on their own, which is starting to shift. And then there's a lot of homeless cats in the shelters. And shelters, I don't think are as common in Sweden either as they are in the US. So the shelters are practically almost always full. And people, it used to be common as well for farm cats to not be fixed. And so they would have litters and they would grow up semi feral, and in big colonies of cats and stuff that would just, be around. And that's a sort of culture that you know pretty much anyone who cares about cats wants to move away from that, and
Hmm.
only have cats who will have homes and have good lives and be loved and stuff. So that's why it's an ongoing effort to raise the status of cats, because they do not have the same sort of, they aren't valued in the same way as dogs are. Because in Sweden, you are kind of required to register your dog ownership. Like each dog is supposed to be registered with an agency, and
Interesting.
have their owner be registered as well. So like I've never had it be like I'm walking down the street and I see a stray dog. That doesn't happen, pretty much. Uh, Whereas there's a lot of stray cats. Um, and every shelter here, uh, I've never been to a shelter that has dogs. All shelters have cats. So that's sort of the situation that we have here. And so for that reason, they're really advocating for you to spay and neuter your cats, so that you know we don't have more cats than there are homes for them.
A couple of things. Even though we do have more shelters here, I have had more times been turned away for cats because there's so many cats in regards to stuff like that.
Hmm.
Compared to others. Uh, and like it doesn't matter. There he is. What kind of shelter it is, because there's like, and I apologize for bringing this up, but there are like kill shelters and no kill shelters and stuff like that. And it doesn't matter which one that it is that they tend to be very full.
Yeah.
Um, but and the other thing is there are two stray cats at least that I have seen, physically seen.
Hmm.
And the only reason why I know that is because I only see their shadows since I work overnights,
Yeah.
and one has a docked tail and the other one doesn't.
Hmm.
But there are two cats that chill around my work that have been strays. I've seen them over the past couple of years, type of thing. Um, and I think I've seen maybe one or two stray dogs, but I've definitely seen far more stray cats than
Yeah.
dogs, type of thing.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's not
Oh no,
similar
no.
in the US, but it's just like
Right,
really I've never seen a stray dog in Sweden.
it's just it's a different priority related thing. You brought it up, and I figured we
Hmm.
have European listeners,
Yeah.
and so I'd tell people what it's like because
Yeah.
it's probably closer to that for you guys.
Yeah, and I think even like in Europe, it's also it depends on your country. Um,
Hmm.
I think there are probably other countries where stray dogs are more common in Europe.
Oh,
Well, perhaps not more common than stray cats, but more common than stray dogs in Sweden.
hmm.
I think even to the point where we import rescue dogs from other from shelters abroad. I think that's a thing. I think there's also like two dog shelters in Sweden, one in southern Sweden and one in Stockholm. I think. I don't know. But then again, that situation might also be changing a bit because I think that the dog culture in Sweden is changing to where maybe before it used to be a little bit more like people would primarily have a dog for working purposes, as in like hunting or herding or sledding or whatever. Um, Particularly hunting, though. Um, Whereas now, I mean, of course, like companionship has also always been a factor, but I think it But I mean, as with anywhere else during the corona pandemic, during the height of it, of working from home, a lot of people would get dogs because it was a good time to get a dog. Um, Less of a good time to socialize a dog or train it to be home alone, which then becomes a necessity once people go back to their work. And so, yeah, I assume that rehoming um, dogs will probably become more of a thing as well.
Yeah. Pets are a commitment. Stop making those commitments if you're not gonna make all the commitments.
Yeah. And I mean, to a
That's
certain extent, one might say that I did a similar thing with Thimble, since um, I at the time when we got Thimble, I was a student and I was studying from home most of the time, and so I had a lot of time to be home uh, and take care of him. And eventually, I'm gonna get a job, and I'm not gonna be home as much as I am now. But um, I've also made sure that I'm in a position where I do have people to support me in taking care of
Mhm.
him. Um, and also, I'm somewhat likely to have a job where I could potentially bring him with me. Uh, like, if I have an office job, then I'll probably have my own office, and then I could theoretically bring him with me as long as he's not very disruptive, which I don't think he will be.
Well, only one way to find out.
Yeah.
It's also sorry about that. I'm just sitting there watching my camera on occasion, looking over, and then I see somebody trying to get to the frickin' trash.
Yeah, I saw that. Made me think
It's,
of George the cat on
hmm
Twitter with the trash can mishaps.
I love Jorts. Jorts
Yeah,
is great.
yeah, I agree.
But yeah, it's like a brief aside from that, just to kind of see the difference in regards to pet culture is like, yeah, you guys have those commitments and those obligations to dogs, and dogs are valued.
Hmm.
Whether something that I've seen, whether it's a dog, a cat, exotic pets like rabbits, lizards, etc. There are so many. Oh, this feels like a good idea for a present for a
Mm,
child
mm, hmm.
type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, and I get it. Kids like cute things, and it can be a way to teach them responsibility, but it always becomes, not always, it often becomes an exercise in futility trying to get the kid to do that. I
Yep.
cannot tell you how many times I have seen pets get turned to a shelter, or due to neglect from the children, I have seen a few pets even die. One of which very violently. And it's a bothersome thing because like a cat or a dog, they're common pets. I kinda get it. It's what people are used to. Some of these that I've seen have been, as mentioned before, like rabbits, and they need a lot of care. They need a lot of extra stuff. You can't, like, it might be frustrating, but you can't have them in one particular area. They need like all sorts of other things in regards to it. It is so frustrating to see people do that with pet care
The
type of
thing
thing.
I think is like, yes, your child might say that they want a pet, and they might say that they're going to do this and this, but a child that really, really wants a pet is going to be willing to work hard for it. And I say
Mhm.
this because my mother really wanted a horse when she was a kid. She still has horses. She loves horses. And she was told over and over that she was not allowed to have a horse because my grandparents didn't think that she would really take the responsibility for it, and they weren't interested in doing it. Um, but then, she on her own volition, started going to the stables, and she helped out taking care of horses there, and she made sure that she spent time around horses, and she did all these things, even if it wasn't her horse, because she loved being around horses and she wanted to ride, she wanted to do these things. And then eventually, I think she saved up her own money, and I think she even went behind, more or less behind my grandparents' back, and talked to some person about buying a pony, I think. Um, and she made arrangements for like a slot in a stable and everything. And then she talked to my grandparents when she had already made every preparation herself, and she was like maybe 11 years old or something like that. And because she would, like, she wanted it for years at that point already. Maybe she was 13. But yeah, she, for such a young child to basically make all those arrangements herself, that's dedication. And that, at that point, my grandparents knew, like, okay, she will actually take care of this horse. She already does these things for
Mhm.
like horses that aren't her own, and she's already made all the arrangements. And so she was allowed to purchase the horse, and she did take care of the horse. But don't just listen to your child nagging that, oh, I will do these things, and just empty promises. Make them show the dedication before you get a pet, unless you yourself are willing and ready and able to take care of the pet yourself as the parent, because it's your fucking responsibility. You're the adult.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's
make
my
sure that
opinion.
all things are okay. On a more positive note, at least our moms would get along. My mom's also a horse girl.
Yeah, I guess my mom might be a little bit disappointed with me not being like I don't mind horses. I like horses. I don't have the interest. I like smaller animals. I guess I actually got a horse as a present from my mom when I was a kid. I was maybe 6 or 7 years old when I got my first horse,
At
and
least
that
you
would have
were
been a
six or
dream.
seven.
What?
I said, at least you were 6 or 7. I was -6 months old when mom bought my first whole horse.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I didn't ask for that, and
Mhm.
I was not as involved in it as one might have hoped I would be. But I never asked for it, and my mom took great care of my horse. And, she took responsibility for the fact that she had decided to give me a horse. So,
And at least if that ends up being a thing, like if you yourself aren't going to take care of it, type of thing, or like the kid isn't going to take care of it, if it's in a good place, like even then, that's fine as long as
yeah,
the animal's being taken care
yeah,
of.
absolutely. Which is why I say, like, as long as you, as a parent, are ready and able and willing and
Hmm.
interested in caring for this animal yourself as a primary caregiver, then, do whatever. Then it's more of a family animal, I suppose. And that's fine. Like, you can have a family dog. It doesn't have to be your kid's dog that only they are going to care for and train and, you know. Because also, it costs money. Like a dog costs a lot of money. Like not just to buy. Even if you manage to somehow, which you probably shouldn't, buy a dog on the cheap. At least in Sweden, you shouldn't do that because chances are they've been smuggled, imported, and bred in horrible conditions. So don't do that. But basically, even if you manage to get the dog cheap, um, if something happens, dogs do not have the best sense of self preservation, most of them. They will eat things they shouldn't, and they can hurt themselves in a plethora of ways. And then you need to take them to the vet, and that's probably going to cost a lot. Even if you have insurance, like I have the most expensive insurance for Fimble because like I'm an inexperienced dog owner and I didn't know what type of temper he would have. I didn't know if he was gonna eat glass shards off the road or whatever. So he has the most expensive insurance I could get him. But even then, if something happens, it's still gonna cost me money, and the insurance itself costs money too, and it's not something a child can pay.
Right. Figuring out what the Chaos Gremlin's doing. She was playing with the box behind there that probably everybody saw. But yeah, it's just it's pet ownership is a lot.
hmm And the
People
food
need to take that
costs.
into food costs, veterinary bills, making
Mhm.
sure that they're taken care of. And like even if it's not just that, like, your dog's gonna be perfectly fine, never needs to go to the vet for any reason ever. Um and like eats just a decent amount and likes the cheap stuff. My dog actually, Bandit actually insisted on eating the store brand stuff. Anytime we got him something else, he's just like, no,
Oh, that's my
no.
cat right now. Tarzan, like, when we picked him up, um, we had prepared, like, these fancy, like little gourmet cat food things, and he would not touch them. He does not touch anything other than, I wanted to say Kibbles because it's the only pet brand thing that I know of
Mhm.
for the US, I think. But like little dry food bits. That's all he eats. And treats.
But even if that's all the case, there's going to be some point where your dog's gonna get or your pet's gonna get messy, and then they might not want to take a bath, which is very hard and very annoying to deal with. And like there's always something, even with the best, most well-mannered uh animals type of thing.
I will say though.
Howling,
I
for
will say
example.
though, we've given baths and showers to, I think, one cat. We've had many cats, but only one of them has really needed uh, baths. Like they keep themselves clean. Ours do, anyways. One we had to give baths because he would get into fights and he would come in muddy and bloody and don't want to get the wounds infected. So we had to wash him. But other than that, but yeah, that's another thing. Over here, declawing cats is illegal. You're not allowed to do
Good.
that. And I think that's good, as it should be. Like, it's inhumane. If you can't handle scratch marks on your furniture, don't get a cat. Simple as that. Um, we, in my family, we don't even cut their, like, claws. Like, we don't clip the claws or anything. They stay sharp.
Yours are also indoor outdoor cats, right?
No, Tarzan is actually fully indoors. We used to have
Okay.
indoor outdoors cats, but Tarzan is not one of those. Um,
The only reason why we do that is because it gets to a point where they like even we're kneading, they're puncturing through our skin type of thing
yeah,
because they get
that's
really
that's
excited.
that's a thing. I've always lived with that. For me, that is, I don't know, maybe that's how you become a masochist. But but like I've dealt with that since I was a wee child. Like, um, I remember being a kid, I would play with our cats with my hands a lot, and they would always be scratched to the ever living crap. And I didn't mind. I mean, I went into it knowing what to expect. That's perfectly normal for me. I don't mind. So, whenever our cats will need on me, I just grit through the pain and I'm like, yes, I love you too. Yep, I know you're happy. I'm happy you're happy. This hurts,
It
but I'll take it.
it doesn't really bother me until one of them tries to get on my lap and slips.
Yeah, that one's fun.
But outside of that, I don't care. Your roommate cares a little bit more because they have they have autoimmune issues that make them more sensitive to
Mm,
pain.
yeah,
Um,
I can understand that a bit, I guess.
but yeah, like when if we were living in a place where there were indoor outdoor cats, it's like, sorry, you're gonna have to live through that. I am not taking away their self-defense weapons.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Like, our furniture, like my chair is scratched to oblivion. Not really. It could be worse, but there are definitely claw marks and everything on my chair, from our cat, climbing on it with his claws. And for me, it's just like, yeah, that's one of the trade-offs you do make when you decide, hey, I want a cat. Like, same with like, there will be cat and dog hair all over my place, and all over my clothes. It's like, that's just part of that.
Hmm.
For
Hmm.
me, obviously, it's more worth it to have the love and companionship of my pets. I love them. Like, I would not be without them for just pristine looking clothes. Like, come on. Where's the fucking value in that? I don't know. For me, valuing a clean house or clean clothes over that is shallow, unless you have medical reasons.
Right. I mean, like, freaking, I've got cat hair all over the shirt.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like our couch, that's their favorite thing to scratch on when they don't have a scratch pad or something like that, is the couch. And it's the actual far back corners type of thing. They don't do anything up front. We haven't scolded them about it or anything. They occasionally get off a chair type of thing. Like, I think if I kind of move the can, well, I don't know. I'm not even gonna bother. But like the chair's a little bit ratty in regards to it because sometimes Delilah comes by and scratches on it when she's checking on us type of thing.
Hmm.
But like it's not that big of a deal.
No.
It's furniture.
Yeah.
It's gonna need to be replaced eventually anyway.
Exactly. I mean, we have some furniture, obviously, that's off limits. We have
Mm,
some carpets that are quite old and quite valuable. They're not allowed to scratch those. But, if it happens, it happens.
exactly.
I'm just gonna go get Fimble, cause, we're talking about him. I think it's only fair that
Hmm.
he makes an appearance. And he, unlike your cats, cannot get up on things in the background. His tiny little stump legs are not long enough for that. No. Hi.
Oh, he a cozy looking boy.
Oh.
Big
But
old ears still.
what?
He's a big old ears still.
Mhm.
But yeah. To kind of circle back for a little bit, because I know we kind of got distracted in regards to like clipping nails. For those
Oh,
of you that are not aware on why declawing might be a bad idea, I want you to imagine me clipping off your fingers at the first knuckle.
yeah. It is really cruel. I do clip my dog's nails, of course, because otherwise they can get issues with walking and stuff. It's bad for them if they get too long. Cats typically will always like keep them at a reasonable length themselves. So, typically speaking.
Um, Something that I know mom used to do with her dogs is a nail grinder type of thing to keep
Hmm.
them filed and shorter, which is probably a bit safer than
Yeah. But
clipping.
like the thing about dogs is like you shouldn't clip
Big guns.
the claw down further. Like only the
Oh yeah.
white area should be clipped. Otherwise they bleed and it hurts, and you don't do that. Um, and of course, some of them are really fussy about getting their claws clipped. They can think it's a bit scary, especially if they're not used to it. Fimble is actually really good about it. As you can see, I'm allowed to play with his little paw stumps. Um, so he doesn't mind. Here, I could also take him to the local as a pet store, but primarily like they don't sell dogs or cats. They sell like accessories and food and stuff like that. And fishes. They do sell fishes. But you're not allowed to sell you can't have like a pet store selling cats or dogs here. It's not legal. Um So, anyways, but I could take him to that store and have his claws clipped if I couldn't handle it myself. It wouldn't cost much either. It would be like uh, $10 maybe, which I don't think is that much.
Right. No, not at all.
So, the but I mean I don't know if that's an alternative everywhere. It's just an alternative that I have, and that's people are more used to doing it and who are quite certain where to clip and everything. So.
I think it is a little bit more expensive here, type of thing. I'm not entirely sure, because
Ooh,
when stuff like that
sorry.
happens, I just do it myself. I'll be
Yeah.
fine. Um, but like, yeah, and the thing about like the pet stuff here is that if there are animals or cats specifically in a pet store,
Hmm.
it's because they've partnered with a local animal shelter
Yeah.
type thing. It's not the pet store that's doing it. They're
No.
just, here's some kitties that you might want to take a look at
Yeah.
type of
Yeah. I mean, because of course, I think before it was legal to have like cats and stuff in a store, but like they need to be cared for and have social. Like there are rules about how long you can leave them alone and stuff like that, and even
Hmm.
more so with dogs actually. Um, there you go. Um, but yeah, so like you have to like here you either buy your cat or dog from a breeder. Cats you can also usually get from someone who accidentally got a litter or a shelter. Those are pretty much the three ways. You can't just go to your local pet store and be like, I want to buy a cat or a dog. That's I think
Um,
maybe there are places such as you described where it's partnered with a
mhm.
shelter. Maybe it's not how it is here. Like I
No,
don't
that's
think
fine.
our town is big enough for that.
Um, yeah, no, it's pretty similar here. Is you have to go to a shelter or somebody that's a breeder, somebody that accidentally got a litter or type of thing. I know at least here, I don't know what it's like over there, but I know at least here that there is an adage that is adopt, don't shop
Mm.
type of thing. And that is because, as mentioned near the beginning of this episode, we have a lot of overflow in regards to shelters,
Yeah,
and people
that's
are
pretty much the
breeding.
thing with cats here.
Mhm,
Whereas with dogs, the typical advice is go to a breeder.
mhm.
Um,
But like it doesn't matter if it's dogs because it's people with mutts that are at the shelters. It's so many different things. And like while it is nice for it, like there are breeders and there are certain qualities that are really good. And I understand that people are trying to breed certain qualities back into certain dog breeds that might have certain uh health problems. But like part of the thing is the reason why it's adopt don't shop is because at least here a lot of people still take a look for the qualities that they're looking for in regards to appearance
hmm,
more so than some of the things that might be best for the animal.
yeah.
And since we have the overflow of dogs and cats, normally it's just go to a shelter, get that taken care of if that's what you want for a pet.
Here,
For
the thing is, like I said, there are like two places that have homeless dogs or rehoming dogs. So that's not much of a thing. However, there is a lot of selling dogs online. Like hobby breeders, I guess you could call them. Because here's the thing, we do have they're called SKK, SKK, which is the Swedish Kennel Club. Uh, and any breeder is registered with them if they're breeding purebreds. And like we got our dog from someone who was registered there, um, and at that point you know that there's no inbreeding, uh, and that it's someone typically it's someone who has the dog's best interest and the breed's best interest because they also do set breeding standards. I don't know how it is with breeds such as like pugs and stuff, which can have health issues. But for example, I think that the German Shepherd used to be very inbred in Europe, and they've been very actively working with, you know, getting it healthier again and stuff like that. Whereas if and also breeding with regards to temperament. Um, Whereas if you go to a site like, for example, Craigslist is the only one I know in the US, which is also like an option. Um, you have a lot of scams. First and foremost, like people who put out dogs and ask for, or because it's standard that you have a down payment that is non-refundable even if you change your mind. Um, And some people will put out an advertisement for a dog and just take the like down payment and then run and scam
Mhm.
a lot of people that way. There's no dog at all. You won't get that with when you're going to an actual registered breeder. Second of all, like I was talking about, the import dogs, illegal imports. Usually, I would say that they come from Eastern Europe and are bred in very, very bad conditions. And those dogs, aside from just the suffering of the animals involved, some of them also have aggression issues due to the circumstances that they've been through. And then they also can bring in sicknesses that we don't typically have here. That's another issue. And then you have like the mixed breeds where you get really unpredictable temper of the dog because like yeah.
I know we've got a lot of like it's I don't think that it's one big organization. Like there is organizations for the health of animals, the ASPCA, for example, but without doxing myself, if you followed us long enough, you know where I'm from, and I'll be more than happy to tell you there. But this goes to YouTube, which has a little bit of a wider audience.
Yeah.
So without doxing myself, I know of at least three organizations that are specifically for like health of animals that work together type of thing
Mhm.
for as nonprofits. So there's that. Actually, one of my favorite ones is there's one that's actually down the street, and it's just for cats. Like there's nothing else in there. And before the before the beginning of the pandemic, we would just go in and spend some time with the cats for a little bit type thing because it's just a cool little thing to do.
Mhm.
And I always tried to make friends with the semi-feral ones because, fuck my hands.
They're the ones who need friends the most.
Exactly. Not all people are bad. Some people just want to give you chin scritchies.
Mhm.
But yeah, like it's nice. And it was always like one of my favorite things to do is just to go over there. And those semi-feral cats that were being socialized was to just sit there and socialize with them.
I will say also on the topic of dogs having a higher status than cats in Sweden, I think one of the reasons as well is because if I if I'm not misremembering now, like I said, I'm more of a cat person than a dog person. This is my first dog, so I am not that well informed on everything about dogs in Sweden. However, I do think that we used to have a dog tax, which is why they had to be registered because you had to pay taxes for your dog. I think that was a long time ago, but yeah, so I think that's also one of the backgrounds is like they had to be registered because you had to pay taxes. And so that also upped the status of dogs.
It's also it's a meme, and it's one of my favorite memes, but it's kind of like when you meet a cat person, it's kind of like, no, dogs are cool. I just prefer cats. And then when you meet a dog person, it's like a cat killed my family and set fire to my house as a child. And it's like, okay.
Yep, I agree. Like, it is so common comparatively for dog people to hate cats, whereas cat people are like, dogs are a bit too high energy for me. I like cats, they're more my thing. Dogs are fine. Just maybe I don't. Maybe I'm scared of dogs. Just keep them away from me. But you know.
Mhm.
Whereas dog people can be fucking psychos about it. It's like, oh, I want to kill all cats. Fucking get rid of all cats. And I'm like, dude, dude, do you hear yourself? Like, okay if you don't want to own one, but god damn. I would kill you before I let any of that happen.
I get it. Cats can do major damage to a local ecological system, but like just fucking keep an eye on your cats, dude. And like don't sit there and be a prick about it.
Yeah.
There's no reason to be that way. And
Yeah,
I
I
know a
mean,
couple of people like that too. It
yeah.
drives me absolutely up the fucking wall.
Yeah, because I mean, like, if we want to talk about damage, like, maybe not to the ecological system, but I mean, as far as damage to people goes, I've seen a lot more injuries of a more serious degree from dogs than cats, just saying.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Um, yeah, it's it's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot in regards to animals. There's a lot in regards to people and animals.
Absolutely.
Just take care of your pets.
Yeah.
Don't be a dick about it, and don't be a dick about other people's pets.
Yeah, take care of your pets. Take responsibility for your pets so they don't hurt other people.
Yeah,
And don't be a dick about it. Pretty
uh,
simple.
I think so at least.
Yep, I agree.
Okay.
And don't get pets you're not gonna care for.
Oh, yeah, please don't. Whether that's because of neglect or other means, just don't get pets you're not going to care for. I don't care if
Mm-hmm.
it's a fucking goldfish. Don't get a pet you're not going to care for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think, without kind of rehashing a lot of the stuff that we've been through, I think it's kind of a good place to go about it
Yeah,
for the evening. Because we've
absolutely.
been at it for about an hour,
Yep.
and we stayed on topic
Hey!
for the entire
Who
episode.
thought
Nothing
we
but
could
pets.
do that? I didn't. Well, that's a wrap.